Tesla stock has already realized two of the targets that we were eyeing over the weekend. Now, there could be some more downside. Let's go ahead and review just how low this asset can go. What is up, you guys? Thank you so much for stopping by once again. This is ARCa coming at you with a TSLA, Tesla, Statistical, Raw Price Action, and Technicals Thread of Analysis. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video with a friend so that you and them could consider joining our trading community on Discord called ARCa. With that said, let's go ahead and dive right into the charts. Okay, so we are looking at Tesla on the 4-hour chart right here, and we did notice that we were building a falling wedge, and this falling wedge usually presents a bullish outcome. However, there is still some way to go in order for us to realize this wedge's true nature. And what I mean by that is that usually triangles like this tend to realize their upside or their price objective when they reach 70 to 75% to the apex. So we still got some ways to go. Or actually, to be a little more clear about that, I can actually just show you just what I mean. As we're getting closer to that apex, you'll see just how the 70% mark can affect the upside. So we're looking at about 60% completion right now. So we could be making our ascent down to test our lows of this triangle support before us continuing to the upside. 75% could be around here-ish. Okay, so if we do this, or 70%, sorry, 75% could be around here. So if we are able to make our upside move from here, this could actually present a pretty amazing long position. Before we continue this analysis, know that I'm not a financial advisor. Please take into consideration to do your own DD, and we'll be okay. Okay, take whatever I do show in these videos as a form of entertainment only. Okay, all right, so a couple things to notice: that we do have an uptick in sell volume. If you can actually just take a look at a trend line like this, we can actually make the trend line a little dim too, just so that you can be able to see where it's landing. So we do have an uptick of sell volume happening here. Also, we are getting a hint at volume to the upside coming in. But that is not valid just yet, in my personal opinion, or just by judging on the raw price action here on candle analysis. So if we're looking at candle analysis, okay, we're looking at, let's see, these are all very bearish candles, and in fact this one too. What I am looking at here is that we have crossed the 2.618 golden mean, and we still haven't come back to test its validation for a resistance. Similar to here, we were actually right up here when we were doing the analysis over the weekend, and I said to everybody that we are likely to come back down and fail the 1.618, come back up and test it as a resistance and come back down. So we were going to do this like up and down trajectory all the way to the bottom, right? So that's literally what's happening right now. So I can see an upside move, but the upside move may be very limited. We can actually move just literally maybe a point or two to the top, potentially 100, and let's just put a discretionary guess. It would be above the 2.618 at about 169.33 before us continuing and realizing this as a valid form of resistance and continuing to the downside, potentially to test the 3.618 golden mean at 162.19. This can, I'm not exactly sure, or can't call this as the very bottom because there is this support right here, and since we're so close to it, we might as well just wick down to it. These flash wicks, like the ones that you see here, they're very common in bear markets. These wicks usually happen in bear markets, and they happen to stop people out, to gain liquidity. Okay, so this, a lot of people within the Wyckoff theory community call this terminal shakeout or a spring. So this could be potentially to what can happen in this area here. We can actually spring down to this point here and use the 3.618 as a form of support before continuation to the upside. Since I am not a financial advisor, I can actually just say what I would personally play, right? So I think I could play an entry right around, well, first of all, first gain entry at about 162.29, followed by an entry at about 160.24. So that could be a very, very likely area to be able to gain some type of long move. We can actually put the range between 158 and 162.19 just so that we can include the 4.236 Fibonacci ratio. So this is essentially my demand zone that I'm looking at before a move to the upside, and potentially breaking out and using this newly converted resistance into then support before a continuation up to the upside. Okay, so if we were to gain a price objective for Tesla, we can actually take a trend line from the top of the triangle to this lowest point. This is one way to do it, right? So we can actually take this trend line and apply it to a hypothetical breakout zone, so which could be around a 70-75% area. If we put it right around, I'd say here, we can see a upside target of about 213. 46. So if we actually took now a trend line, I'm sorry, a Fibonacci retracement from yesterday's let's see, from yesterday's pre-market high to today's low, we get something very interesting. Wow, that's very interesting actually. We get the 4.618 as a top. And usually, man, it's almost at the penny. Wow. Okay, so usually when this happens, I don't want to like really call this, but no, man. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna tell you guys when this happens. When we're suggesting the 4.618, literally the last ratio of the Fibonacci sequence, I've noticed that there are halts. So I've noticed that there are halts right at this target here, or if not, just a point above it. So I would be very careful with what happens here next. Okay, so we are looking at this is, I mean, if we were to break out from where I'm saying this is the 28th. Okay, it would be the 28th of November. So we do have a few days, to go by that. At least it's going to be what, Monday, I think. So if we did make that, and also Mondays are not usually the days to make these types of moves. It's usually Friday. So if we did make it around Friday too, I mean, let's just put that trend line on Friday and see what it gives us. So this would be Friday. And I mean, and I mentioned a tick above, you know what I mean, of the 4.618. So it's still very confluent there. And I mean, if we pull up some EMAs, let's just see if there's, SMAs, and let's see if there's anything there. With an upside trajectory, we can actually start manipulating the 100-day moving average, similar to like this type of situation, to where we can clear the 4.618 and then come back down to use the SMA 100 as a form of support before continuation on. Right, so this is just an implied discretionary guess as to what can happen, but what I am I'm not so, nothing is guaranteed in the markets, but I can definitely see us touching this area here tomorrow or the next day. Okay, so watch your longs, you guys. Okay, so now let's dive into the statistical side of the analysis. Yesterday, I did mention that there are two very strong demand zones that we're likely to go into. I mentioned this one here, and I said that we're likely to fail this one to go into the one that has, or that caters, or that hosts the September 2020 highs, this wick highs from September 2020. So we have now literally touched that support. We're right at it. I mean, to the penny. So, and this candle is still looking a little bearish. This is a daily candle, so we do have to apply more credit to this. This is suggesting a continuation to the downside. And also in the daily candles, we're looking at an uptick of volume too, of sell pressure. Okay, so I can definitely see that this bottom of the demand zone could be at about 159.77. And this right here is suggesting 158.15. So there is a lot of confluence here within the demand range that I'm looking at, and also with the short-term Fibonacci ratio and this wedge is implying. So these are more confluent targets that just lead me to believe that, yeah, for sure we're going to go down here and touch it, and just like these, we fail it and we come back in. Okay, so now, sorry, my voice is starting to go away. It's terrible. Okay, so now let's look at the short-term time frame, immediate short-term. 30-minute RSI is suggesting a slight continuation to the upside from oversold percentile. So this upside continuation, let's look at the 15 micro time frame and see what it's also suggesting an upside. So, but the buy hourly, as you can see, that pivot is starting to turn to the upside, but it's still suggesting downside. And we are also very, very much oversold. Okay, now, I mean, historically, we have reversed a few times from this area, from where we are now. So there is limited downside still. What I'm saying is that we still can face some downside, but there is a slight upside first, which is very confluent to what we're talking about within our 2-spot 618 confirmation of resistance. So we can actually make the 2-spot 618 a slight upside, just like the immediate short-term timeframes in the RSI are suggesting, before a continuation onto the downside. Now, if you look at the 6-hour, it's also just giving us just a no real bias in direction. It's just neutral. Where we can get that bias is actually on the daily. The daily is suggesting a continuation to the downside with a significant pivot. The moving average is above us, represented by the pink line, and that's likely to where we're to go. Sorry, new listeners, I didn't do this, but this is my RSI properties right here. So if you hear me mention bear strength percentile or whatever, you'll know this is the upper half, which is here, and then here, and then this is the lower half, which is here. Okay, so this the daily time frame is now succeeding the bear strength percentile, which is going to go into oversold percentile. Now, if we open up the daily or zoom out, we to the beginning of the trading of the asset, we can actually see that we still have some more room to go. Let's go ahead and put a trend line from where we are now. And okay, so yeah, we have reversed from this section a few times already. There's a few iterations to where we have reversed from this, but as you can see, these prior iterations, we still have some more downside to go. We could still historically go lower. Okay, so, and this pivot is very much suggesting so. And we can actually be using, just like we did here, we can actually be using the moving average as a form of resistance on the way down. Now, this downside is limited due to the fact that all of these smaller time frames are already an oversold percentile, and also the daily is potentially already there. So let's look at the buy daily and see. The buy daily is also suggesting a downside. So yeah, tomorrow is very likely that we'll see what I'm saying. We're going to see a test of this right here, potentially a little further up to 169, followed by a capitulation event to test the 3-spot 618 and the 4-spot 236, which is also confluent with our demand zone right over here in the larger term time frame. Okay, so I could likely see entry right here for a very, very exponential move to the upside. The stats are showing it too. So if we apply, I'm not going to explain this, but you can actually view it literally any other video where I explain what volatility is. So volatility is represented by this indicator called BBWP. It's direction neutral, and we pair it with stochastic momentum so that we can be able to get a bias in direction. Stochastic momentum has given me a 75% to 90% accuracy in read depending on the different tickers, and it's still suggesting downside. So I'm going to give this some credit, and I can definitely see us go down to this level over here. If we were to consider the upside thrust, 18.46%, we would need to consider that from the point of reversal. So we actually do need the stochastic momentum to be pivoted towards the upside in order for us to apply this metric of 18.46%, which is a back test that I performed throughout the entire trading history of Tesla, which is all this. I made sure to test the oscillator so that we can see just how accurate it is in guessing that direction. So far, it's guessing to the downside, and we're looking at an 80% accuracy, particular to Tesla. Out of 5 iterations in the trading history, we have 1 that's incorrect. Okay, you guys, so I think this is a pretty good place for me to leave the video. Please reach out to me on Discord, on Twitter, if you have any questions or concerns. I'll make sure to leave the links in the description below. But with that said, I wish you well, I wish you a good night, and I will catch you at the bell mañana. Adios.